Welcome back to Jack's Atkins Archery. In today's video, I'm going to be building an ARC 34. So the goal of this bow build is to set it up for IBO 3D. I'm not quite sure what arrows I'm going to be using yet. It'll either be gold tip X cutters, gold tip 30Xs, or gold tip triple Xs. But I'm leaning towards the triple Xs because this is a 75-pound bow and I should be able to get those up to a pretty high speed, like around 310, but we'll see how that works out. Alright, so for the accessories that I'm putting on the bow, I've got a Bee Stinger V-Bar Elite, a Bee Stinger Straight Quick Disconnect, the Hamskea Insight Peep, the Hamskea Epsilon Rest and Target Conversion Kit, the Excel Landslide Sight with an AVX41 scope with a 3-power lens in it, Bee Stinger Premier Plus bars, a 30 out front and two 15s in the back. That's where I'm going to start with those, and that's about it. Alright, so I'm just going to start by bolting up the quick and easy stuff to do. Here's the Bee Stinger back bar mount. I like these pretty well. They normally do a good job for me. So one of the first things I've noticed about this bow is that the hole in the back of the riser sits extremely low. I'm gonna have to get my stubby Allen wrenches out. But the hole in the back of the riser for the V-bar mount sits extremely low on the riser. That's not a problem. It's just kind of an observation. It may change how I have to set up the angles of the bars, because normally I run them angled down just a little bit. I may have to pick them up and run them kind of flat, or maybe even up a little bit. One thing about that is shooting up and downhill. If your back bars, or just a back bar if you're running a single one, is too far below your grip, shooting uphill especially, you're going to get a lot of like dip bangs, because when you point your bow uphill, that weight that's sitting low acts like front weight. It's going to try to pull the front of your bow down, and then it's going to do the opposite on downhills. It's actually going to try to kick the bottom of your bow out away from you a little bit. So that's something to always keep in mind when you're setting up something that you're going to be shooting outside. You got to make sure that you can shoot it up and downhill. So now I'm going to put the sight bracket on and the sight. Okay, so now I have bolted everything onto the bow pretty much. The rest sight, stabilizer brackets. Now I'm going to tie the knock ties in. That's the first thing I do as far as tying in for the D-loop, is I'm going to do the knock ties. And how I decide where I'm going to do them at is I actually measure between the axles, and I'm going to go on this bow. I'm thinking I'm going to start a 1/4 inch above center, because like on my Mathews Atlas, which is a similar axle to axle bow, it's 34 3/4. This bow is 34. I need to get a silver Sharpie, but I run it about 1/4 inch above the center. And then on my title, I actually run it 11/16 of an inch above center, which is pretty high, but it's where it aims really good for me. Okay, so I just got done tying the knots for the top set. I do 2 knots on the top and 2 knots on the bottom of the string, like 2 down here, 2 up top. And then now I'm going to get an arrow. I shoot all gold tip mini HD pin nocks on all of my arrows. I even hunt with pin nocks. And I can just run the same knock spread there for any of my arrows. I'm gonna just leave like a couple of rows of serving. I don't like a lot of space there, because then well, actually, first I should have checked this earlier, but the knock fit's good. That came off pretty clean. That's very important for your accuracy. But so is this here. With knock pinch. So you don't want any knock pinch, but I also don't like a lot of space there. What I want is for it to close up at full draw, but not be squeezing it, if that makes any sense. I just want it to touch both sides of the knock at full draw. I think if you have any more space than that, your knock could be firing in different places. It could just be sitting against the bottom or sitting against the top. When you're at full draw, and create some inconsistency. And then another important thing is that you need to run more ties on the bottom than on the top. And I also like to work away from the knock, if that makes any sense. So I like to start with my closest knot to the knock, so that way the loose ends of the serving are not touching the knock. And where I did 2 ties up top and 2 ties, or where I did 2 wraps on the top, I'm going to do 3 on the bottom. And there we go. I have an extra tie on the bottom than I do the top. I'm going to cut and burn it right fast. And then I'll put the peep sight in. Okay, so the reason that I'm putting the peep sight in before I put on the D-loop is because when you put the peep sight in, it takes up space in the string, and that's going to change the angle of everything. And also I can line the D-loop up with the peep sight when it's in there. Now I don't really know what height the peep's gonna need to go at. I can guess pretty decent, probably. I'd say it'll be about 6 inches high of the top knot. I normally, on like my title, I wind up like 5 1/4 around about. But where this is a shorter bow, I will more than likely wind up being a higher at rest peep, but the same at full draw, because the string angle is going to be sharper. And so the peep sight's in. I'm just going to tie it in with a few knots right now, just wrapping around it. Once I get everything set where it needs to be, I will tie it in more permanently. Okay, so now it's time for me to tie the D-loop onto this. I always like a really short D-loop. I try to keep it like right at a 1/2 inch. So I don't measure it out. I just make it as short as I can, and that works out typically to be right at a 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and flare and then burn this one end. And another thing that I have is I use the smaller diameter BCY. It's 23. Your normal ones that people use is going to be 24. I think that helps with like release hand angle. It'll be more forgiving to that. But if you run a release that has 2 jaws that separate, you still need to run the 24. It'll get off of those kinds of releases quicker, or better, a little bit cleaner. Okay, so I have this one this end cut and burnt, or flared and burnt. So I'm gonna tie it on. Tying D-loops is really pretty simple. You just put the put it over the string in kind of a U shape, and then run the end that you cut and burned up through on the top side, and then you're gonna run it through on the other side, and then you're gonna run the other end through the loop on the bottom. And then I always get this knot super tight before I go and do the bottom part. Let me see if I can find the D-loop pliers. Found them. So I always grab a hold of it and then wrap it up, and then I'm going to pull really hard just to get all the slack out of that knot before I go to tie the bottom, because like I said, I like a really short D-loop, and that's one of the ways that I can get it. Did that backwards. Okay, then I'm going to also wrap up and pull this part of it tight. Just again, trying to make that D-loop as short as I can get it, because that's how I like it. Some people like long D-loops. Some people like short D-loops. I'm one of the people who like short D-loops. But that's all just personal preference. And then for this here, I'm going to pull it I'm going to cut it as close as I can get it and still be able to burn it. And that's just, again, because I like short D-loops. They just seem to shoot better for me, aim better, feel better. I never really get this knot super good. Just, they don't normally pull through, but they're not as good as the top knot typically. I don't tie ones this short when I'm doing somebody else's, because I'm a little concerned about that, but I've never had one come out on me. Make sure I pull that tight there. And there we go. There's a D-loop. It'll probably stretch a little bit, like as I'm actually shooting it, but we'll see. There we go. Okay, so I have everything bolted up now. The rest cord is pulled tight. I had to run it to the top limb because my V-bar bracket was in the way of running it to the bottom. But that's no big deal. It won't change the function at all if I put it to the top limb or the bottom limb. So it's about ready to shoot. So I'm excited for that. Alright, so I'm here in the garage ready to shoot through the chronograph. This is 75 pounds, 30.5 inch draw. It's pulling right at 76 pounds. I just timed it and pulled the rest cord down good. So I'm going to start off with a gold tip XXX. I shoot these for ASAs out of my title, and out of that bow they run like 284. They weigh 472 grains. Alright, so 304 feet a second. That's pretty quick. That's right where I figured it'd be. I figured it'd be in the 305 to 308, somewhere in there. So that's pretty solid. Okay, so now I'm going to shoot a gold tip X cutter out of it. This is what I shoot out of my title for IBOs. And out of that bow, they run about 312 or so. They weigh 388 grains and they have 120 grains in the front. All right, so 332 feet a second, that's smoking. All right, so I'm gonna shoot this through paper with the XXXs. That's the plan to actually shoot it. Not bad to start with. Come around. I may honestly leave it because right now I'm just getting everything roughed in. It's this hole here. It's a little bit knock high, but not much. So I'm just gonna let it roll for now. I'll probably change that later. Okay, so now I'm gonna sight it in. I'm gonna start by sighting it at 20 yards. Get that right, and then I'll move back. Okay, so I sighted in at 20 yards. Now I'm back here at 40. I have sight tape 18 on there now, which might be close. But we'll see. We'll see where it's hitting. Okay, so I have had this in the draw board overnight. That's something I like to do, just get everything settled in good. So I'm actually going to let this down and then check the timing again. The reason I'm letting it down is just kind of reset everything. It would probably line up the same if I just brought it all the way to full draw. But this is something that I'm doing just to kind of check what I have going on. I like to do this before I get everything fine-tuned. So the The bottom cam is now pretty significantly ahead. So I'm going to throw a half twist in that cable to get that a little bit better. So there's a half twist in that cable. Now I'm going to check the timing again. Now we're actually the exact opposite on the timing, so I'm going to use so Conquest is who makes them, but they're spacers that go in your cable to change your cam timing. So I'm going to do that right quick and then call it good for now, because the cables and everything are probably still going to move a little bit. So I just need to get it really close so that I can get everything just set up really close to how it's going to be. Okay. See, here is one of those spacers. It just takes up space in the cable and shortens it just a little bit. When a half twist is too much in it, I always use these to get it dead right, because I prefer that feel in my bows, the solid back wall and more of a neutral way that you're pulling against it. Just feels better to me, aims better for me. Okay, so now I'm going to pull this grip off. That's actually why I waited a few days before I continue to set everything up. I got this bow on, I believe it was last Wednesday, or no, last Thursday, sorry. And I haven't really touched it since the day after that, so that Friday, is because I was waiting on getting the grip in. So I'm taking double-sided tape here, and I'm going to just put it down the back of the riser. Just to keep this grip on good. I got the Shrewd grip. That's what I run on all of my bows. I just really like how it feels, and it shoots well for me. But I'm just running double-sided tape down the back of it here. Doesn't seem to be wanting to stick. There we go. So now I need to cut that off a little bit. It's made it a little bit too long. Okay. And now I'm going to take the Shrewd grip right here. This is the aluminum standard wrist. That's what I use on all of my bows. Okay, so I've got everything together. I put my Shrewd grip on. I put the skateboard tape on the back of it. I got the bars pretty close to where they need to be. I think I have 17 ounces on the back left on the 15-inch bar. I have 28 on the back right and 27 in the front. This balanced really well for me, and where this bow is so light, like in the riser compared to the Tidal, I had to add a lot of weight to the bars to get it to be a similar mast weight. I think it's still lighter on the mast weight. I wound up bumping my peep sight down a good bit from when I set it. We put a nose button on it. And then I also have had to run my sight in some to torque tune it. So normally I wind up torque tuned with the sight all the way out in the furthest away notch. Now I'm 2 notches in, and it's torque tuned there really well. It's torque tuned. And then it is sight tape number 18, and my X cutters out of the Tidal, which run 312. These are running 304, 305. Is sight tape 17. So very similar arrow drop and forgiveness on my yardage as to the Tidal with my X cutters. So that's kind of just the rundown here. I wound up lengthening the draw length by 4 twists in the cables. That's kind of it. It was pretty simple to get set up for me, pretty easy. The rest tuned right down the middle. I did end up getting that paper tear out of it by just moving my rest up some. But first impressions, this bow aims good, shoots good, it's fast. I like it pretty well so far. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. If you have any questions for me, just ask me. See y'all in the next one.